Hello everyone, Douglas Ducote here. My new book, From Baton Rouge to Baghdad and Back, is available now at Walmart, Amazon, Google, iTunes. Please check it out. I had the opportunity to either write about my 4 combat tours and the horrors of war like everyone else does, or I chose to write about the humorous side of military service. So there are stories about things that I experienced in Operation Desert Storm and Operation Just Cause down in Panama and everything in between. The funny things that I went through and I lived through. The things that require basically a sixth sense of humor to get by. So this is a great gift for anyone that you know that's served in the United States military, as well as those that just like to read things that are funny. My whole purpose was to make you laugh. And if this book, From Baton Rouge to Baghdad and Back, makes you laugh, then it was worth my time and effort in writing it. So please check it out. You can buy the book starting today at Walmart, Amazon, Google, iTunes, and Barnes & Noble. Thank you and God bless. Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Whether you're watching us tonight on our YouTube channel, our Rumble channel, or X channel, please like, subscribe, share the video, share the channel with your family and friends, and let them know about our show. Let them know if they have little ones in the room that Mr. Doug sometimes says 1 or 2 or 20 bad words, so they might want to keep that in mind. But anyhow, thank you for being here with me. Much appreciated. Tonight, I'm going to start off introducing you to somebody that you probably have never heard of. It's a sad tragedy, what happened to this young lady. And it's even a sadder tragedy how the Democrat members of Congress feel about her and you, the American people. This young lady right here, my friends, that is Kayla Hamilton. She was 20 years old and she had autism. In July of 2022, she was killed by an illegal alien. He was 16 years old from El Salvador. His name was Walter Javier Martinez, and he was an MS-13 gang member living in Aberdeen, Maryland, where he killed her. Well, Republican Congressman Russell Frey of South Carolina put forth a bill in her honor called the Kaylee Hamilton Act, H.R. 4371, S3054. This bill would change how unaccompanied illegal alien minors are vetted after entering the U.S. without a parent. Now, listen to what I'm going to share with you closely. Those that came here without a parent. The bill's main goal is to strengthen safety and oversight in the placement of unaccompanied minors in federal custody by making the Department of Health and Human Services conduct criminal background and records checks on these minors under the age of 18 before placing them with sponsors or releasing them after they turn 18 into our communities. It will require checking for gang tattoos or any previous association with gangs. Both this 16-year-old illegal alien had. It would also require proper vetting of the person or persons that might become their caretaker or sponsor. Now, all this sounds reasonable, right? And to be honest with you, I, for one, thought this would have already been a normal process. But it was not. These unaccompanied minors were not only not being checked for gang affiliation, but were being allowed to live with people in America who also were not vetted, and some that had criminal convictions, even for child sex crimes. So the bill comes to the House floor for a vote. And remember how I've been telling you for quite some time now, over and over and over again, as a former Democrat, that the Democrats in America up in Washington, D.C. and Congress don't care about American citizen safety when it comes to illegal aliens. They care about the illegal aliens and put them first. Well, when this bill came to the floor, are you ready for this? 201 House Democrats voted against the bill to prevent dangerous migrants who came into the U.S. illegally as children from walking free on our streets. This bill, it's designed to make sure we find out if these kids, 17, 16, in this case 16 years old, 15, 14, 13, were affiliated in any way with gangs, or they had gang member tattoos. And 201 House Democrats said, you can't do that, and voted against it. Now, thankfully, because Republicans have the majority, the legislation passed in the House 225 to 201 on a vote. Just 7 Democrats voted with Republicans in favor of this bill. They were Representatives Adam Gray, Democrat of California, Jared Golden, Democrat out of Maine, Marie Glutzka Perez, Democrat Washington, Don Davis, Democrat North Carolina, Vincent Gonzalez, Democrat Texas, Laura Gilden, Democrat New York, and Henry Siller, Democrat Texas. 7 Democrats sided with Republicans and said, this is a good idea. Why the hell weren't we doing this to start with? Well, you'd have to ask Joe Biden that question, his administration. Well, 201 Democrats said no to the bill. Well, this gang member pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. The evidence was overwhelming. Martinez came to the U.S. illegally as an unaccompanied minor and was a member of the notorious MS-13 gang. And they start recruiting at like 10 years old. This is all according to a press release from the Maryland State Attorney's Office in Hartford County. The bill will prevent future tragedies like Hamilton's. I think In this one instance, a simple phone call to El Salvador would have kept him in a secure facility and not allowed him out on the streets where he could kill this young lady. An eyeball check on gang tattoos of his body would have kept him in secure facility because he had both a criminal record in his home country and gang tattoos. He would have never been on our streets if this bill was in play. Thankfully, it is now. He would have been in a secure facility pending his immigration hearing, which would have sent his ass back because he's a criminal. And that's not what we want here. We want people to come to America for their safety, for the better of their future, for themselves and their families, the legal way, not the illegal way. And we don't want the criminal elements of society. But progressive liberal Democrats up in Washington, D.C. argued against the bill on the House floor and said it would harm our vulnerable children. Republicans are treating unaccompanied migrant children like criminals, Representative De La Ramirez, Democrat Illinois, said. We must use every tool at our disposal to protect vulnerable children. This bill criminalizes children and creates dangerous precedents that all makes them move more vulnerable. Representative Luis Rivera, Democrat California, said it undermines and strips critical rights from vulnerable children and subjects children as young as 12 to strip searches. All of which is a 100% blatant lie. These children are strip searched anyhow, along with everybody that comes across the border illegally. It saves American children and American citizens from dangerous kids under the age of 18. That's what this bill does. This gang member had not only an arrest record, but had the MS-13 tattoos on his body. And the Democrats don't want him or people like him to be properly vetted because they're a minor. Minors murder people too. Because of this minor and an MS-13 gang member, that young lady is dead. This is insane. That's your liberal Democrats in Washington, D.C., my friends. The party that I once proudly belonged to, I don't recognize them at all. They've been hijacked by far-left liberal ideology, nut jobs in this country. And thankfully, more and more just regular American citizens that are Democrat voters are waking up and realizing that the party left them a long damn time ago. And they don't have these same values and belief systems and ideology that their leaders in Washington, D.C. have. Okay, moving on. Oh, that's good. Real quick. So, for those of you who don't know, I drink a lot of coffee. I drink community coffee, which is a coffee made here in Louisiana. And my new coffee pot has a strength level on it where you can have regular strength, robust strength, high octane, or insanity. Tonight I'm trying the insanity, which fits great in a grenade cup. Trust me, it's very, very good. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer is delaying Bill and Hillary Clinton's depositions before Congress until January. Let them have a good Christmas and let them think about their actions. In a letter sent to their attorneys on Monday evening, Comer warned that a failure to appear for their new dates would result in immediate contempt of Congress proceedings, and they will be arrested. They're saying now that it's going to a funeral on that particular day, so they can't be there. So we've been going back and forth with the lawyer, Comer said. We're going to hold them in contempt. They do not show up for this deposition. However, if they fail to prove alternative dates for the testimony, just that, we got a funeral to go to then. I bet you do. Therefore, the committee has chosen the date of January 13th, 2026 for the deposition of former President Bill Clinton, and January 14th, 2026 for the deposition of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. If your clients do not comply with these new dates, the committee will move immediately to contempt proceedings, the letter stated. The Clintons were originally subpoenaed over this past summer to testify in the House Oversight Committee probe into Jeffrey Epstein. Because Bill Clinton is all over those files, as we now know. 17 times Jeffrey Epstein was invited to the White House by Bill and Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton invited them to their daughter's, Chelsea's, wedding. Now, Jeffrey himself didn't show up, but Maxwell did, or whatever her freaking name is, his co-conspirator, sexual abuser of children. And the committee wants to know, what's this about? Why are you on the flight logs more than anyone else? Much less the fact that Trump's on it for, I think, 2 or 3 times. Bill Clinton's on it like a dozen. And invited Jeffrey Epstein to the White House? I wonder if this was at the same time he was having the intern, Monica Lewinsky, on her knees under his desk. Maybe we should ask her if she also had to service Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. I think it's a legitimate question to ask. Part of a longer list of former presidential administration officials called in for closed-door meetings with the panel's lawyers. To date, just 2 people have shown up in person. Former Trump administration's Attorney General Bill Barr and former Trump administration Labor Secretary Alex Acosta. Others have deferred their subpoena dates or opted to send in written statements due to various personal matters, but it appears Comer is not allowing the Clintons to sidestep an in-person grilling. In this letter, the Republican leader even went so far as to criticize the Clintons' lawyer for asking for the same treatment. Your correspondence with the committee continues to ignore the committee's arguments, misstates relative facts, and seeks information about the committee's investigation to which neither you nor your clients are entitled, the letter states. This committee stated clearly in its November 21st, 2025 letter to you, the committee's decision to forego in-person depositions for certain other individuals was because those individuals lacked any relevant information to the committee's investigation or otherwise had serious health issues that prevented their testimony at the time. Comer said the former president and former Secretary of State are not similarly situated, and therefore your argument that they are receiving unfair treatment, which you continue to repeat, is baseless. For example, unlike these other individuals, President Clinton and Secretary Clinton had a personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Photos and other documents released by the committee so far have shown Bill Clinton and other powerful figures, including President Donald Trump, socializing with Epstein in various degrees. Both Bill Clinton and Trump were shown to have handwritten entries in a book applied to Epstein for his 50th birthday, though until then, much of the media scrutiny had been focused on Trump only because that's all they care about, get Trump. Not that Bill Clinton invited Jeffrey Epstein to the White House 17 times. Neither Clintons have been implicated in any wrongdoing related to Epstein, however, and their social engagements with him appear to have ended long before his 2019 federal indictment on sex trafficking charges, and of course, his suicide, which we don't know if he committed suicide or if somehow somebody took care of it for the Clintons, because of all the people in those files that we know of so far, and they're all being released. It's all coming out now. We're going to have it all within the next 30 days. There will be nothing left to show you. But so far, Bill and Hillary Clinton, former Democrat president, former Democrat governor, former Democrat Secretary of State, had an ongoing personal relationship with those two people. They're all over them files. But the news media only cares about Trump being mentioned a few times. That's where I draw a line on this bullshit. I'm not saying Bill Clinton or Hillary had anything to do that's wrong, but the fact that they keep bucking this and not wanting to testify, that tells you something, or at least it does me. Okay. In an attempt to distract from her fraud investigation involving marrying her brother to gain U.S. citizenship, and the billions and billions of dollars her Somali community was stealing from COVID funds and sending to terrorist organizations, Alihan Omar came up with a no-merit story about her son being harassed by ICE. Head of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement rejected the claim of Representative Alihan Omar that her son was presented or pressed for proof of U.S. citizenship by ICE personnel after being stopped at a Minnesota Target over the weekend. Omar told CBS Twin Cities affiliate their son was subpoenaed to a traffic stop type encounter by ICE agents on Saturday, but was ultimately let go without further issue after he was able to produce a U.S. passport or passport card, Omar said. ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons pushed back on the assertion on Today, saying the incident never happened. ICE has absolutely zero records of its officers or agents pulling over Congresswoman Omar's son. It speaks volumes that Congresswoman Omar is leveling this accusation with absolutely zero proof. Lyons called Omar's comments to the local outlet a ridiculous effort to demonize federal law enforcement officials. He also said her rhetoric contributes to a spike in threats against ICE personnel, citing a 1,150% increase in assaults against ICE agents, 8,000% increase in death threats against ICE agents. Omar, who has 3 children, said her son had gone out for an errand when ICE supposedly made contact with him. Omar's spokesperson, Jacqueline Roberts, said the Democrat lawmaker stands by her account of the situation. Congresswoman's son and others were pulled over by ICE, racially profiled and forced to prove their citizenship with a passport, Rogers said. ICE has long operated as a rogue agency beyond reform. It's no surprise an agency known for disappearing people also can't keep its records straight. ICE now claims it has records of all the stops, and our office would welcome the opportunity to review them. Omar also responded to President Donald Trump calling her garbage, aimed a fraud scandal involving Minnesota's Somali community and officials in St. Paul. Omar said, "It is really disturbing and creepy to have the President of the United States be obsessed with you and those who share your ethnicity." Wow, like you're obsessed with Trump and white men and military veterans? She also rebuked claims Trump made at a rally near Swiftwater, Pennsylvania last week that she had married her brother to help obtain U.S. citizenship. Everybody knows I came to the United States at the age of 12, gained my citizenship at age 17, Omar said. Omar first entered a religious marriage with Aman Hersey in 2002 and had 2 children before they separated. She then married British citizen Ahmed Noor Said Elma in 2009, separated in 2011. Reunited with him in 2012, and after lengthily divorcing Imam in 2017, legally married Haras in 2018 until their separation. She is currently married to her longtime political consultant, Timothy Merritt, who also is under investigation for money laundering and taking millions of dollars in campaign finance that Omar gave him. In remarks to CBS affiliate, Omar also criticized the Trump administration for villainizing Somalis aimed the feud and the fraud scandal. Here in the United States, we don't blame the crimes of an individual on a whole community. We are, as Minnesotans, also outraged at the fact that our tax dollars were defrauded, Omar said, telling the CBS affiliate. She supports any investigation to whether Minnesotan state funds have ended up in the hands of East African terrorist organization Al-Shabaab. Really? You welcome that? So sit back and let me show you a little clip that I put together about both these scandals she's actively involved in.
Joins us tonight to talk about Minnesota as well as a number of other issues. And sir, it's good to have you back on the show. Trump mentioning the Daily Mail reporting from 2020 that Ilhan Omar married her brother to get into the country. This was last week. Take a listen.
Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud.
Calls that a fraud. It's a story that has never been successfully refuted, even though it's now a 5-year-old story. That's clearly a deportable offense. Is there an investigation into that?
You know, I just got advised by a fraud investigator the other day on that. I asked the question, who reviewed the file and says, there was immigration fraud involved. The statute of limitations became an issue in the last 4 years when this was first brought up. Who was president? Who ran DOJ? So pulling the records now, pulling the files, and we're looking at it. But this fraud investigator, who I know personally, one of the best fraud investigators in HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, said there's no doubt he reviewed the file. So I'm running that down this week, matter of fact, and we'll see.
It's tremendous that, and according to the Secretary, Kristi Noem of DHS, she said nearly 50% of the visas are fraudulent in this community. That would mean that half the Somali refugees are here in some way illegally. What's going to happen? Is something actually going to happen? Are there going to be people stripped of their visas, deported? Are we going to see that?
Absolutely. Those days are over. Thank God President Trump's in the White House. We're going to look at all of them. We're going to look at those here illegally, of course. We're going to look at those here under a visa or some sort of, immigration process that are criminals. We're going to look at the national security threats. But those who came through a process that weren't properly vetted, who didn't provide documentation, who slipped through the Biden's weak processes on, giving visas and temporary, whether student visas or visitors visas or whatever. We're going the whole gamut. President Trump has instructed us go down and we're going to deep dive all of this. And we're going to hold people accountable. So yes, there are going to be multiple deportations coming. Absolutely.
Congresswoman, can I ask you your response to Tom Homan saying you're under investigation for immigration, possible immigration violations? Just any response you have to what he's saying in the public.
I have a response because I don't know what they'll be investigating.
So you don't think they would find anything?
Absolutely not.
Why do you think they keep bringing this up in the media?
Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, though, that there was a failure by the Democratic state government to police itself? This is a brazen, fraudulent activity here.
Yeah, and that is what I alluded to in my letter that I'd sent to the Secretary of Ag, was to see where things were going wrong. How can this amount of money disappear fraudulently without there being alarms being set off? And it is something that, we have to continue to investigate. We have to continue to ask those questions.
Well, Ilhan, we do know that alarms were set off, and we do know that Tim Walz and the Attorney General of Minnesota both ignored them and allowed this fraud to perpetuate. Tim Walz even threatened the families of whistleblowers if they tried to uncover this. And she wants to pretend like Somalis are these hyper-productive, hyper-successful, net-positive, tax-contributing members of society, when we know Somalis are the second most welfare-dependent group of people behind Afghans.
Now, I want you to think about something for a moment. Alihan Omar has a salary of $174,000 per year. Now, if anyone accused you of doing something that would be defamation of character, even if you made $174,000 a year, you would seek legal advice, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you get an attorney? I mean, the President of the United States, the guy who Democrats have been trying their damnedest to crucify for years now, is now saying what the rest of us have been saying for quite some time. And that is that she married her brother to fraudulently get citizenship in America. But it's not just the $174,000 she makes. You see, every year members of Congress have to file what's called a congressional financial disclosure. So in 2024, when she filed hers, don't take my word for it, Google it. Use ChatGPT if you'd like. Guess what her net worth was? If you guess $30 million, you would be correct. Where did that money come from? Well, in her state, there's a huge fraudulent crap going on with Somalis that were stealing billions of dollars and getting away with it. And the person from Somalia that's accused, not yet of taking any of this money, but is being investigated for numerous things, one being that she possibly filed paperwork fraudulently to become a U.S. citizen. If you got $30 million, wouldn't the very first thing you did, if you hate Donald Trump so damn much, is pick up the phone and call your attorney and say, sue the living shit out of this man for defamation of character? Makes you think, doesn't it? Is that going to come tomorrow? Next week? I don't know. But let me put myself in her shoes or sandals and wrap a rag around my head very, very tight to where it cuts off some of the circulation of blood vessels. I would immediately, if I was her, got with my attorney. If I made $30 million a year, I'd have gave him $1 million as a down payment to go after Donald J. Trump for defamation of character, for telling the American people that I married my brother. That is the biggest defamation of character and slander accusation that you could ever possibly think of. If it's not true, coming from Donald J. Trump against a sitting member of the opposing party in Congress. And there's no lawyers involved yet? Nothing? Makes me wonder why. Maybe because you know your goose is cooked and your ass is about to be history, and it couldn't happen to a better person. As long as you've known me, folks, those of you that have been watching this show for years, my number one target has been Alihan Omar. I've sat here night after night after night, time after time, and told you about how anti-American that woman is, and the horrible things she said about Americans, about white people, about our veterans, referring to the veterans in Operation Gothic Serpent, which was the Black Hawk Down incident. Remember the movie Black Hawk Down, where they went into Somalia and the Black Hawk got shot down? Yeah. She referred to those military, U.S. military members, as the real terrorists that day. Writing's on the wall, woman. Go ahead and self-deport yourself to save yourself from jail time in America. So I think your days in Congress are just about freaking done. Especially if it's true that so far 50% of the Somali population in her district are here fraudulently. Moving on. Federal prosecutors credited an executive order from President Donald Trump with helping the FBI uncover and stop a planned New Year's Eve terrorist attack by far-left extremist group in the state of California. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Eslick said the order triggered the investigation that resulted in multiple people being arrested. This investigation, can confidently say, was triggered as a result of President Trump's executive order in 2025 in September, and the Attorney General's memo directing the federal government to move its resources and start looking at these far-left groups. The executive order prompted a federal probe that exposed the group's alleged plot to kill Americans on New Year's Eve. The Justice Department said that 4 members of this anti-capitalist, anti-government group are now in custody in connection with the case. The suspects belong to a group called the Order of the Black Locusts, which operates under the Turtle Island Liberation Front. He described the larger organization as sharing the hallmarks of Antifa and prompting political violence. In September, Trump signed an executive order aimed at curbing violence that he said stems from far-left groups like Antifa, and declared anyone associated with Antifa as a terrorist. Authorities said the suspects were planning to attack American companies in California with explosive devices on New Year's Eve. They described the group as far left and said they also discussed targeting ICE agents and blowing up government vehicles. The FBI wasn't really looking at these groups prior to the Trump administration. He said the Bureau is now laser focused on identifying and dismantling these types of groups that are all across America. You can be assured that we have the full resources and assets of the federal government looking at these groups. He added that Trump's order gave investigators time to embed an undercover agent within the group, allowing authorities to monitor their plans and preparations in real time. Prosecutors say the suspects tested explosive devices, shared detailed written instructions for making pipe bombs and communicating through encrypted message apps. They may look silly, but they are deadly serious, and they're very sophisticated, he said. And let's listen to the press conference that he held.
The terror plot that authorities broke up in Los Angeles. Let's watch.
Louisiana, U.S. Attorney Zach Keller, and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, Lee Foley, for providing valuable assistance over the weekend with a very complex and coordinated search warrants that were done. The charges we are announcing today stem from the defendants and their co-conspirators' detailed, coordinated plot to bomb multiple U.S. companies on New Year's Eve. Thankfully, that plot has now been foiled thanks to the hard work of the FBI and the Department of Justice. This investigation was initiated in part due to the September 2025 executive order signed by President Trump to root out left-wing domestic terror organizations in our country, such as Antifa and other radical groups like the Turtle Island Liberation Front. As the president made clear, recent attacks across the country have highlighted the grave threats posed by these far-left domestic terror groups. These threats are sophisticated, organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, threats, and violence designed to silence opposing speech, limit political activity, and direct policy outcomes and prevent the proper functioning of a democratic society. In direct response to the president's order, the Attorney General issued a memo to our offices implementing and mobilizing federal law enforcement to prioritize and counter domestic terrorism and political violence investigations. As a result of those directives, we built this case. Both my office and the FBI have invested substantial resources into investigating and charging these organizations. And if anyone does not believe that members of these groups are organized, sophisticated, and extremely violent, let me tell you about the plot in this case. The four defendants are Audrey Carroll, 30 years old. The pictures, I think we have them somewhere. Audrey Carroll, 30 years old, Zachary Aaron Page, 32, Dante Gaffield, 24, and Tina Lay, 41, each from the Los Angeles area. Each is charged with conspiracy and possession of an unregistered destructive device in violation of Title 26, United States Code Section 5861D. We intend to file additional charges in the coming weeks as we finish reviewing the evidence. The defendants are all radical anti-government members of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, which according to their own social media is an anti-capitalist, anti-government movement that calls for their associates to rise up and fight back against capitalism. One of the leaders of the organization, defendant Audrey Carroll, helped organize an even more radical faction of the group called the Order of the Black Lotus. Each of the defendants charged today was also a member of the Order of the Black Lotus. Carol described this group to her co-conspirators as everything radical. As detailed in the federal complaint, which we will now make public, in November 2025, defendant Carol created a detailed bombing plot to use explosive devices to attack 5 or more locations across Southern California on this upcoming New Year's Eve. Carol and her co-defendant, Zachary Page, led the effort to obtain and build the bombs and to recruit others to join in their plot. Carol's bomb plot was explicit. It included a step-by-step instructions to build IEDs or improvised explosive devices and listed multiple targets across Orange County and Los Angeles. Carol also made clear her desires. She said, quote, "What we are doing will be considered a terrorist act." Carol and Page also discussed plans for follow-up attacks after their bombings, which included plans to target ICE agents and vehicles with pipe bombs. Carol stated that those plans would, quote, "take some of them out and scare the rest." Throughout early December, the co-conspirators discussed their plans during an in-person meeting in Los Angeles and through an encrypted messaging application. As part of the plan, the 4 defendants planned to build test bombs in the Mojave Desert. You're going to hear more details about the bombs they intended to build and how the operation went down in the desert here shortly from the FBI Assistant Director in charge. In preparation for the plan, the co-conspirators purchased multiple pieces of bomb-making materials and discussed their travel plans to the desert. Last Friday, December 12th, the defendants took a significant step to carry out their plans. They traveled to the remote campsite, which you're going to see some video of, in the desert, and they began unloading their bomb-making materials to assemble and test the bombs. They had everything they needed to make an operational bomb at that location, and they were subsequently arrested by the FBI before they could build a functional explosive device. Shortly after the defendants were taken into custody, the FBI executed multiple search warrants, including at the defendants' Southern California residence and other locations throughout the country. I'll highlight some of the items found during those searches over the weekend. For example, in Carol's residence, law enforcement found multiple posters and materials associated with Turtle Island Liberation Front, including posters stating, quote, "Death to America, long live Turtle Island and Palestine," and quote, "Death to ICE, Turtle Island Liberation Front." In Page's residence, law enforcement found a copy of the detailed bomb attack plan. This case is another reminder about the dangers that radicalized Antifa-like groups pose to public safety and the rule of law. Through the tireless work of our prosecutors in my office and our law enforcement partners, which you will hear from today, we disrupted this terror plot before buildings were demolished or innocent people were killed. But this is not the end of our work. My office is committed to extinguishing the far-left terror threats that we face and will continue to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The 4 defendants arrested will make their initial appearance this afternoon at the federal court in downtown Los Angeles. They are each considered innocent until proven guilty. I will now turn it over to the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI LA office, Akil Davis.
Now, if you want to see the remainder of that and what the FBI agent had to say, the field agent, look it up. It's on YouTube, it's on Rumble, it's all over the internet, but I'm not going to bore you with that for the next 45 minutes that he goes on, but you get the gist of this. Thank God for Trump going back and saying we need to focus on these groups because they weren't on the radar of the FBI at all. Zero. And then when they were, lo and behold, if they weren't planning on killing ICE agents, blowing up buildings, and killing Americans and ICE agents in just a matter of a couple of weeks for New Year's. They're just one of many, sadly, groups across this country that are waiting to kill us, thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their open border policies and the radicalization that is happening based on far-left liberal Democrat ideology to turn against Trump, conservatives, Republicans, law enforcement, our veteran communities, and so forth. Now, let me take you back to 2022. If you're a Democrat or a liberal and you're watching tonight's show, or you're watching this piece of tonight's show, pay close attention, please. Remember the FBI raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago home? Well, guess what has now been uncovered? The FBI did not believe it had probable cause to raid President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in 2022, but moved forward because of the pressure from Joe Biden's Justice Department, with an official saying he didn't give a damn about the optics of the search. Newly declassified documents and emails between FBI and Department of Justice officials in the months leading up to the August 2022 raid of Mar-a-Lago, with FBI officials expressing concern that they didn't have probable cause to execute the search warrant on the then former president resident in Palm Beach, Florida. Very little has been developed related to whom might be capable or culpable of mishandling the documents. An FBI official serving as an assistant special agent in charge wrote to another FBI official, Anthony Rigler. From the interview, WFO has gathered information suggesting there may be additional boxes, presumably the same type as were sent back to the National Archives in January at Mar-a-Lago. WFO has been drafting a search warrant affidavit related to these potential boxes, but has some concerns about the information as a single source and has not been corroborated and may be very outdated. The official continues in the emails. DOJ, CSS opines, however, that SWs meet the probable cause standard, even as we continue down the path towards a search warrant. WFO believes that a reasonable conversation with the former president's attorney, stating that the FBI and Department of Justice are readying a search warrant and have developed information that there are more documents at Mar-a-Lago, are not to be discounted, the DOJ official wrote. At a minimum, even if the former president's attorney is correct, and these documents were all declassified or believed to be declassified, it can be reasonably argued that the documents remain sensitive and should be properly secured until the matter of classification is sorted out, the Department of Justice said. The two-tier justice system on full display, my friends. This conversation can easily be accomplished at the same time that WFOs press forward with the investigation and continue building out the search warrant. Weeks later, an FBI agent writes in an email stating, "We have generated any new facts, but keep giving draft after draft after draft with no probable cause. Absent a witness coming forward with recent information about classified information on site, at what point is it fair to just table this?" The agent writes, "It is time-consuming for us and not productive. If there are no new facts supporting probable cause, why are we doing this?" Another email revealed that the FBI's Washington field office did not believe that we have established probable cause for the search warrant for classified records at Mar-a-Lago. Department of Justice has decided that they do have probable cause and trumped the FBI, requesting a wide scope, including residence, office, storage spaces. The FBI believed that a raid would be counterproductive and suggestive, alternative, less intrusive, and likelier quicker operations and options of resolution to reclaim any potential classified records. The process moved forward, regardless of the concerns of the FBI. Another email on August 4th, 2022 revealed the plan for the execution of the warrant. The FBI intends for the execution of the warrant to be handled in a professional, low-key manner, and to be mindful of the optics of this search, the agency writes. The agents quotes then Deputy Assistant Attorney General George Toscas in a meeting. Since we heard Mr. Toscas say yesterday in the call that he frankly doesn't give a damn about the optics, and Mr. Bryant has already built a relationship with Trump's attorneys, I think it is more than fair to say that the Department of Justice contact with the Trump attorney just prior to the execution of the warrant will not go very well. The Department of Justice said as much yesterday, the agency writes. I also think that it's fair to say that the FBI calls having in mind officer safety to the optics of the search and the desire to conduct this search in a professional and low-key manner. There is a far better chance that the execution will go more smoothly if we may actually gain some measure of cooperation, which could go some way to resolving this mishandling of classified records investigation that is being conducted. The agent added, I understand that this request may not go well at DOJ. However, it is the FBI serving and executing the search warrant, and we don't believe we have probable cause. It will be our personnel who have to deal with the reactions. The FBI in August of 2022 raided Mar-a-Lago, executing the search warrant as part of an investigation to Trump's alleged improper retention of classified records after leaving the White House. And in that report in 2024, the Biden administration authorized the use of deadly force in the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago. They just wanted Trump killed. We know that. An operations order produced in discovery as part of the special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into Trump's alleged improper retention of classified records revealed that the FBI believed its objective for the Mar-a-Lago raid was to seize classified information, NDI, and U.S. government records as described in the DOJ's search warrant. The order, according to the court filing, contained a policy statement regarding use of deadly force, which stated, for example, law enforcement officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force when necessary. And see, here's the thing. Why did they put that in there? Every law enforcement officer on the face of America knows they can use deadly force if it's needed and warranted to save their life or the lives of someone else. That's part of your training. You need to remind them they can use deadly force when executing a search warrant? Unless you're just trying to push an agenda here, which we clearly now know they were. The Department of Justice didn't give a shit. They wanted Trump and hoped that somebody do something stupid and the agents would start killing people and maybe get Trump. According to the following, the Department of Justice and FBI agents plan to bring standard issue weapons, not what the Department of Justice was requesting they bring, and handcuffs, and medium and large size bolt cutters, but they were instructed to wear unmarked polo or collared shirts and to keep law enforcement equipment concealed. During the raid, FBI agents seized boxes of documents containing records and materials potentially protected by attorney-client executive privilege, leading to legal disputes over the handling of those documents by a tainted team. And they did. They took all kinds of shit. They went through Melania's freaking underwear drawers. They went through everything in Mar-a-Lago that they could get their hands on. Trump's attorney at the time said they were not permitted into the rooms as FBI agents conducted the search, raising more concerns about the procedures surrounding the so-called "we gotta get him" raid. Attorneys said the FBI agents executed the search warrant in no position to decide unilaterally where to search and what were Trump's personal records and what were not. Trump was charged out of former special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into his retention of classified material. Trump pleaded not guilty to all 37 felony charges from Smith's probe, including willful retention of national defense information, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and false statements. Trump was also charged with an additional 3 counts as part of a superseding indictment out of the investigation. Additional count, a willful retention of national defense information, and 2 additional obstruction counts. Trump pleaded not guilty to all of this. And of course, the charges were dropped by Smith after Trump won the 2024 presidential election and after they found out that Trump had indeed declassified all the documents that he had brought with him to Mar-a-Lago that were going to go into his presidential library one day. Joe Biden, on the other hand, also took classified documents when he was vice president that were 100% classified. And he didn't have the authority as vice president to declassify them. And we know they didn't go to Obama, the president, and ask him to do it. They did not store them in a secure location at all. They were found in his garage next to his Corvette in an old office building he was no longer using. But Trump's unclassified documents, supposedly classified, were under lock and key inside of Mar-a-Lago, which is also protected by massive security cameras and armed Secret Service agents. Joe Biden's charges were dropped by special counsel who made the determination that Joe Biden was an old, feeble man with poor memory and possible mental decline issues. Yet he was allowed to be president and have the nuclear code. Go figure. There's a 2-tier justice system on full display, America. And now we know what's going on behind the scenes. You see, for Democrats or Republicans, keep your shit together and do things the right way. Because one day, the other party is going to be in charge. And when that happens, they're going to go through your shit with a fine-tooth comb, which is what's happening right now. Which is how we found out about all the shit that they did with the J6 committee. And now this, the Mar-a-Lago raid. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their entire administration were a bunch of corrupt, horrible Americans. And sadly, no one is being held accountable yet. We still have 3 more years. We also still have midterms coming up, where I do believe that the Democrats don't have a snowball's chance in hell of taking back the House or Senate. I also believe that the next president of the United States will be J.D. Vance, not a Democrat. But even if it was, Republicans, when you're in power, need to keep your shit straight. Cross your T's, dot your I's. Don't do anything illegal, because if they do take power, and one day they will, they're going to find your corruption. And unlike you, they're going to go after you with everything they got, both barrels blazing. Republicans, on the other hand, are exposing all this shit that the Democrats did for 4 years under Biden-Harris, and nobody's being held accountable for this criminal conduct. Last thing I will leave you with is tomorrow night, President Donald Trump will give an address to the nation live from the White House. Trump mentioned the address in a statement on Truth Social, saying the speech will take place at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, December 17th. He has not clarified a topic for the address. The post read, and he put it on Truth Social, "My fellow Americans, I will be giving an address to the nation tomorrow night, live from the White House at 8 p.m. Eastern Time I look forward to seeing you then. It's been a great year for our country, and the best is yet to come. So I, for one, can't wait to see what our president has to say. How many times have you heard me say, if I were president of the United States, I'd be addressing the nation every damn time the Democrats threw some bullshit at the wall, accusing us of some no merit BS, to get the facts out there. Maybe this is going to be a new trend. Maybe Donald Trump is going to put some people in their place tomorrow night. Time will tell. Maybe he'll just talk about all the accomplishments that he's done in the first year. I don't know. I'm not in his head, nor would I want to be. Anyhow, tomorrow night, tune in and watch President Trump address the nation. Join me back here on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central for another live episode of the Douglas Ducote Show, where I'm sure we will talk about what Trump has to say tomorrow night and many, many other things that are happening in our country and across the globe. Thank you for being here tonight. Please, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Rumble, X, share, like, comment. Let your family and friends know about the show. That's how we get the message out there. We keep building the platform, and we keep moving forward with factual information over the left's no merit bullshit. And that's something that I will do until they put me in the ground. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful and blessed and safe evening, my friends. And join me back here on Thursday evening. Good night.